In this week's lesson, you'll continue the weekly Bible study that you began last week in the Gospel of Luke. Don't neglect the three-part format for the meeting that will reinforce pastoral care, worship, vision casting, learning from God's Word, fellowship, and accountability. By now you've seen that T4T not only produces new believers and new communities of faith, it is also a powerful way to transform passive Christians into active doers of the Word. Each week, in addition to teaching your trainees a new lesson, you've encountered a lot of hidden wisdom and insights within T4T that you need to pass on to your trainees and that they need to pass on to those that they train. Let's take a moment here to unpack some of the hidden wisdom of T4T. First, T4T is steeped in prayer. Ying Kai routinely spends 2 hours every day in prayer, and you need to spend time in prayer too. Here are some of the things you might want to pray for. Pray for God's protection for you and your family. Pray for God to show you who you're going to tell your story to this week. Pray for those that you share your story with. Pray for those that you're training. Pray with and for the new churches that you're forming. A second hidden wisdom is that the most effective evangelism comes from someone in your own cultural worldview who both knows you and loves you. So keep directing your trainees to tell their story to their circle of family and friends. A third hidden wisdom, there's only two kinds of people in the world: lost people who need to hear your story and Christians who need to be trained to tell their story. So keep it simple. With T4T, you always know how to relate to anyone, training believers and evangelizing the lost. A fourth hidden wisdom is that among Christians, some will be doers of the Word, but many will be hearers only. So don't be discouraged by the hearers, just keep training and working with the doers. The only way to find the doers is to train everybody. A fifth hidden wisdom is that among the lost, there are those who are already under conviction and ready to respond to Jesus. And there are those who will reject the gospel. But the only way to discover those who are ready to respond is to tell everyone your story. A sixth hidden wisdom is that among those Christians that you do train to tell their story, there will be some who will be highly, highly effective. Ying calls these individuals super spreaders. Church planting movements are built on super spreaders. The only way to find those Christians, though, who will prove to be super spreaders is to train every Christian and then see who proves to be not only a doer of the Word, but a highly effective doer of the Word. It's these super spreaders who will become your master trainers later and leaders within the movement as it goes forward. A seventh hidden wisdom, if you're effective, Satan will do whatever he can to stop you. Your best protection against Satan's attacks is to pray without ceasing and thank God for whatever comes your way, knowing that God will work all things together for good to those who love God and are called according to His purpose. An eighth hidden wisdom, and this is the final one I'll share with you, is that Ying learned how to create a church planting movement ethos, a sort of a group attitude that contributed to a church planting movement. You can do this too, and you need to do this too. Here's what Ying used to do. He used to teach his trainees to repeat a group of sayings that led to a movement. The first one was, just do it. Now, there are millions of reasons not to tell your story to a lost person or to train a Christian to tell his story, but don't listen to those reasons. Instead, just do it. A second thing that Ying would say to his trainees and have them repeat back to him is, church planting is not rocket science. Ying's message was clear. Every Christian should be able to start a church. So have your trainees repeat this saying together. It'll build their faith and confidence. Finally, Ying taught his trainees to repeat after him, it is a great joy to win someone to Christ. It is a greater joy to plant a church. It is the greatest joy to train someone else to plant a church. Ying was instilling dynamic values in those he trained, values that would resonate for generations throughout the movement. We need to do the same thing, rejoicing in a new believer coming to faith, but giving even higher value to multiplying new churches and trainers who will, in turn, train others as well. What should you do with this hidden wisdom? Well, don't keep it to yourself. Remember, you are training your trainees to be trainers themselves. So weave these insights, this hidden wisdom, into your time with the trainees each week as you worship together, learn together, and hold one another accountable to be faithful doers of God's Word.